Most people wake up every morning and immediately believe whatever their mind tells them. If the mind says you're tired, they accept it. If it says this is too hard, they retreat. If it whispers you're not enough, they carry that thought like a fact. But here is a truth that can change everything. Your mind was never meant to be blindly trusted. It was meant to be trained. And resilience does not begin with circumstances changing. It begins the moment you stop letting your mind run wild and start disciplining it with intention. The mind is powerful, but it is not neutral. Left on its own, it naturally drifts toward comfort, fear, and shortcuts. It looks for the easiest path, the safest explanation, the quickest excuse. That's not because you are weak. It's because the mind is designed to protect you from discomfort. But protection and progress rarely travel together. If you follow every thought your mind produces, you will avoid growth, delay responsibility, and eventually shrink your own potential. A disciplined mind understands this difference. It doesn't panic when discomfort appears. It doesn't surrender when pressure builds. It doesn't confuse a feeling with a command. Just because you feel tired does not mean you must stop. Just because you feel afraid does not mean you must retreat. Just because you feel uncertain does not mean you must wait. Feelings are signals, not rulers. And the moment you learn that lesson, resilience begins to take shape. Think about how often your mind exaggerates problems. One setback becomes, everything is falling apart. Delay becomes, it's too late now. One failure becomes, this is who I am. An undisciplined mind speaks in extremes. It turns temporary moments into permanent conclusions. And if you don't challenge those thoughts, they slowly define the boundaries of your life. Training the mind means learning to pause between thought and action. It means asking, is this thought helping me move forward, or is it pulling me backward? Discipline doesn't silence the mind, it teaches the mind its place. You don't eliminate doubt, you refuse to obey it. You don't destroy fear, you walk forward in spite of it. That's not denial, that's leadership. Resilient people are not those who never struggle internally, they are those who don't allow internal struggle to control their decisions. They feel the same emotions, the same fatigue, the same pressure, but they have trained themselves to respond differently. They don't obey every impulse. They don't negotiate with every excuse. They understand that the mind will test them long before life does. Every morning, your mind will present you with reasons not to rise. Not just from bed, but from mediocrity. It will say, today doesn't matter. It will say, you can do it later. It will say, no one will notice if you ease off. And if you listen long enough, those thoughts start sounding reasonable. That's how discipline erodes, not in one big collapse, but in small daily compromises. A disciplined mind learns to speak back, not with emotion, but with truth. It learns to say, this matters, even if no one sees it. It learns to say, I don't need to feel motivated to be committed. It learns to say, discomfort is not a sign to stop, it's a sign I'm growing. This internal dialogue is not automatic. It must be practiced, repeated, reinforced. Resilience is built when you stop letting your mind rehearse defeat. Many people mentally quit long before they physically stop. They imagine failure, rejection, and exhaustion so vividly that they never give effort a fair chance. A disciplined mind refuses to rehearse weakness. It doesn't ignore reality, but it refuses to dramatize it. It stays grounded, focused, and steady. This training does not happen overnight. You don't wake up one day with total control over your thoughts. Discipline is developed the same way strength is built, through resistance, repetition, and consistency. Every time you choose action over excuse, focus over distraction, truth over comfort, you strengthen your mental muscle. And slowly, almost quietly, resilience becomes your default response. The mind will always try to negotiate. It will offer comfort now in exchange for regret later. It will tell you rest is needed when discipline is required. It will argue that one exception won't matter. But a disciplined mind recognizes that resilience is not built in dramatic moments, it's built in ordinary ones. In the decision to stay focused when no one is watching. in the choice to keep going when quitting feels justified. Training your mind also means accepting responsibility for your inner world. You may not control what happens to you, but you do control what you dwell on. You control what you replay. You control what you feed your attention. And attention is the fuel of the mind. What you constantly focus on eventually shapes how you think, how you feel, and how you respond. An undisciplined mind consumes anything, noise, negativity, distraction, and then wonders why it feels weak. A disciplined mind is selective. It guards what it allows inside. It understands that mental strength is built by what you allow yourself to dwell on and what you choose to release. Not every thought deserves a seat at the table. When pressure comes, and it will, a trained mind does not collapse. It steadies itself. It breathes. It remembers past victories. It reminds itself that discomfort is temporary and growth is permanent. This is resilience, not the absence of pressure, but the presence of control. If you want to be resilient, stop asking your mind how it feels and start telling it what is required. Discipline is not cruelty, it is care. It is choosing long-term strength over short-term relief. It is refusing to let fleeting emotions dictate permanent decisions. The moment you stop trusting every thought and start training your mind with intention is the moment resilience begins to rise. There is a moment in every person's life when pressure arrives without warning. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It doesn't care about your plans. It shows up as stress, uncertainty, responsibility, loss, or overwhelming expectation. And in that moment, something becomes very clear. Pressure itself is not the enemy. The real battle is how your mind responds to it. This is where discipline becomes the bridge between pressure and peace. An undisciplined mind reacts. It panics. It assumes the worst. It rushes to conclusions and lets emotions take control of decisions. Under pressure, it becomes loud, scattered, and unstable. But a disciplined mind does something different. It slows down. It steadies itself. It chooses response over reaction. That choice is what separates those who break under pressure from those who grow stronger through it. Pressure is not proof that something is wrong. Often, it is proof that something important is happening. Growth carries weight. Responsibility carries tension. Purpose carries resistance. But when the mind is not disciplined, pressure feels unbearable. It feels like a threat instead of a test. And because the mind wants relief, it searches for escape through distraction, avoidance, anger, or quitting. That may bring temporary comfort, but it steals long-term peace. Peace is not the absence of pressure. Peace is the presence of control. It is the ability to remain centered when everything around you feels uncertain. And that ability is trained, not gifted. A disciplined mind learns how to hold pressure without letting it spill into panic. It learns how to feel stress without becoming consumed by it. It learns how to face problems without becoming the problem. Think about how pressure exposes habits. When things are easy, almost anyone can appear calm. But when life tightens its grip, the truth surfaces. Under pressure, an undisciplined mind spirals. It replays worst-case scenarios, it magnifies problems, it turns one obstacle into a future catastrophe, and the body follows the mind. Tension rises, focus disappears, peace dissolves. A disciplined mind interrupts that spiral. It recognizes that not every thought under pressure is true. It understands that stress distorts perspective. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" it asks, "What is required of me right now?" That single shift brings order where there was chaos. It turns emotional noise into clear direction. Discipline teaches the mind to stay present. Pressure often pulls us into the future, imagining everything that could go wrong, or traps us in the past, replaying mistakes and regrets. A disciplined mind refuses to live in either place. It stays grounded in the moment, dealing only with what is in front of it. Peace lives there, not because the situation is easy, but because the mind is focused. When pressure hits, the mind wants to hurry. Hurry creates mistakes. Hurry creates panic. Hurry creates emotional decisions. Discipline slows the pace internally, even when externally things are demanding. It allows you to breathe, think, and choose wisely. This internal steadiness is what people mistake for strength. But it's not natural strength. It's trained discipline. Peace under pressure is not passive. It does not mean you don't care. It means you care enough to remain clear. It means you refuse to let urgency steal wisdom. It means you understand that emotional reactions rarely solve practical problems. A disciplined mind keeps emotions in check, not by suppressing them, but by placing them in proper order. Also reveals priorities. When the mind is undisciplined, everything feels urgent and overwhelming. Everything demands attention at once. But discipline teaches the mind to sort, to rank, to focus. It asks, what matters most right now? And by answering that question honestly, it restores calm. Peace comes from alignment, not from escape. Many people believe peace comes after pressure is removed. That is a dangerous belief, because it gives pressure control over your inner life. A disciplined mind refuses that arrangement. It learns to carry peace into pressure. It understands that waiting for life to calm down before finding peace means you will never find it at all. Pressure will always exist in some form. If it's not work, it's relationships. If it's not responsibility, it's uncertainty. The goal is not to eliminate pressure, but to build the kind of mind that can stand firm within it. Discipline does that by creating emotional boundaries. Not every situation deserves a reaction. Not every challenge deserves panic. Under pressure, the disciplined mind speaks differently. Instead of saying, I can't handle this, it says, I will handle this one step at a time. Instead of saying, this is too much, it says, this is demanding, but not defeating. These words are not positive thinking. They are trained thinking. They come from repetition, from practice, from choosing truth over impulse again and again. Peace is built through these small choices. Choosing not to react immediately. Choosing to breathe before speaking. Choosing to pause before deciding. Choosing discipline when emotion wants control. Over time, these choices reshape how the mind responds to pressure. What once triggered panic now triggers focus. What once caused fear now produces clarity. Pressure also tests patience. An undisciplined mind wants quick relief. It wants the problem gone now. A disciplined mind understands that some pressures cannot be rushed away. They must be carried, managed, and endured with wisdom. This patience does not weaken you. It strengthens you. It builds resilience that cannot be shaken by delay or difficulty. When the mind is disciplined, pressure becomes productive. It sharpens awareness. It strengthens resolve. It reveals capacity you didn't know you had. Instead of draining you, it refines you. That is how pressure turns into peace. Not because the situation changes, but because you do. This discipline does not make you emotionless. You will still feel stress. You will still feel weight. But you will not be ruled by it. You will feel pressure without losing balance. You will carry responsibility without losing yourself. That is resilience. And over time, something remarkable happens. The things that once overwhelmed you no longer have the same power. You don't fear pressure. You respect it. You don't avoid responsibility. You rise to it. Because you know that your mind has been trained to stand firm. A disciplined mind does not pray for an easy life. It prepares for a strong one. And when pressure comes, peace follows. Not because life is gentle, but because your mind is ready. Most people think resilience is built in dramatic moments, when life hits hard and you're forced to respond. But the truth is far less glamorous and far more demanding. Resilience is built quietly, daily, in the small choices no one applauds and no one notices. It is not forged in a single heroic act, but in consistency. And the mind, more than anything else, grows strong through repetition. Mental endurance is not something you suddenly discover when life becomes difficult. It is something you either have trained beforehand or you have not. When pressure arrives, your mind does not rise to the level of your hopes, it falls to the level of your habits. That is why consistency matters so deeply. What you practice every day becomes what you rely on in hard moments. An undisciplined D wants variety, excitement, and quick results. It starts strong and fades fast. It commits when motivation is high and disappears when resistance appears. But resilience requires something different. It requires showing up when the feeling is gone. It requires staying steady when progress feels slow. It requires repeating the right actions long after they stop feeling new or inspiring. Consistency teaches the mind endurance by proving one simple truth over and over again. You can be trusted to keep going every time you follow through. Even when you don't feel like it, your mind learns that discomfort is survivable. Every time you stay disciplined instead of giving in, your confidence deepens. Not emotional confidence, but quiet, unshakable confidence rooted in evidence. Mental endurance grows when the mind realizes that effort does not equal danger. Many people quit mentally because their mind associates difficulty with harm. It panics at resistance. It interprets struggle as a sign something is wrong. But consistency rewires that response. Through repeated exposure to effort, the mind learns that struggle is not a threat, it is a process. Think about how endurance is built physically. You don't wake up one day able to run long distances without training. You build capacity step by step. Some days feel strong, others feel heavy, but the body adapts because you keep showing up. The mind works the same way. Each disciplined day stretches its capacity. Each repeated effort expands what you can handle. Consistency is powerful because it removes negotiation. An undisciplined mind debates every task. It asks, do I feel like it today? It looks for emotional permission before reacting. That constant negotiation drains energy and weakens resolve. But consistency eliminates that inner argument. The decision has already been made. You act because this is who you are becoming, not because today feels easy. This is how mental endurance forms. When the mind stops treating discipline as optional, effort becomes normal. Discomfort loses its authority. The mind no longer reacts with drama to every challenge. It simply does the work. That steadiness is resilience. Many people underestimate the cumulative power of small, consistent actions. They want transformation without repetition. They want strength without routine. But the mind is shaped by what it repeatedly experiences. One disciplined choice may not feel life-changing, but 1,000 of them will reshape how you think, respond, and endure. Consistency also builds trust within yourself. When you repeatedly keep your word to yourself, even in small ways, something shifts internally. You stop doubting your own follow-through. You stop fearing challenges as much because you know you won't abandon yourself when things get hard. That inner trust is a cornerstone of resilience. On the other hand, inconsistency trains the mind to quit. Every time you start and stop, promise and break it, push and retreat, your mind learns a different lesson. Discomfort means escape. Over time, even small challenges feel overwhelming, not because they are too big, but because the mind has never been trained to endure them. Consistency teaches patience. Mental endurance requires the ability to stay present in slow seasons, to keep going when results are delayed, to trust the process without immediate reward. And disciplined mind demands quick payoff. A disciplined mind understands that strength grows quietly before it shows visibly. There will be days when consistency feels boring, days when the work feels repetitive, days when progress seems invisible. Those days are not setbacks, they are training grounds. Endurance is built precisely there. If you only show up when it feels meaningful, your resilience will always be fragile. But if you show up when it feels ordinary, your strength becomes durable. Consistency also simplifies life. When discipline becomes routine, decision fatigue fades. You don't constantly wrestle with whether to act, you just do. This mental clarity preserves energy, and preserved energy is essential for resilience. A tired mind is not just physically exhausted, it is emotionally vulnerable. A consistent mind is harder to break because it does not depend on mood. It is not easily shaken by setbacks because it understands that one bad day does not undo the work of many faithful ones. This perspective protects you from extremes, from the high of false confidence and the low of unnecessary despair. Mental endurance grows when you stop expecting every day to feel powerful. Strength is not proven by how intense your motivation feels, but by how steady your behavior remains. Consistency says, I will continue whether I feel strong or not. That commitment builds a kind of resilience that does not crack under pressure. When life becomes heavy, a consistent mind does not search for inspiration. It relies on structure. Habits carry you when feelings cannot. Discipline holds you upright when emotions wobble. This is why consistency is not restrictive, it is protective. It creates a framework strong enough to support you when things get hard. Consistency also teaches humility. You learn that growth is gradual, that mastery takes time, that resilience is not flashy. This humility keeps you grounded and patient with yourself, which prevents burnout and self-judgment. A resilient mind is not harsh, it is steady. Over time, consistency changes how you see challenges. What once felt overwhelming now feels manageable. Not because challenges disappeared, but because your capacity increased. Mental endurance expands quietly, almost invisibly, until one day you realize you are standing in situations that once would have broken you, and you are still standing. This is the power of showing up daily. Not perfectly, but faithfully. Not dramatically, but consistently. Each disciplined day adds a layer of strength. Each repeated effort reinforces stability. And slowly, resilience becomes part of who you are, not something you have to force. Consistency does not demand intensity. It demands loyalty. Loyalty to the process, loyalty to growth, loyalty to the person you are becoming. And when that loyalty becomes habit, the mind becomes strong enough to endure anything life brings. Stay consistent and endurance will follow. Every day, whether you realize it or not, your mind is being pulled in 1,000 directions. Notifications, worries, memories, comparisons, noise, opinions. Everything is competing for your attention. And here is the quiet truth. Most people never confront. If you do not control your focus will control you. Your mind will not drift toward strength on its own. It will drift toward whatever is loudest, easiest, and most emotionally stimulating. That is why focus is not a luxury. It is a discipline. And resilience depends on it. Your attention is not infinite. It is limited, valuable, and powerful. Whatever you consistently focus on grows stronger in your inner world. If your focus stays on fear, fear expands. If it stays on problems, problems feel heavier. If it stays on distractions, clarity disappears. The mind becomes shaped by what it repeatedly looks at. That is why resilient people are not those with fewer problems, but those who have learned to direct their attention wisely. An undisciplined focus creates inner chaos. The mind jumps from thought to thought, never settling long enough to process anything deeply. This scattered attention weakens emotional stability. It makes small problems feel overwhelming and simple tasks feel exhausting. When the mind is constantly divided, it has no strength left to endure pressure. Resilience cannot grow in a distracted environment. Control of focus begins with awareness. You must notice where your attention is going before you can redirect it. Many people live mentally everywhere except where they are. Their bodies are present, but their minds are replaying the past or worrying about the future. This constant mental travel drains energy and steals peace. A disciplined mind learns to return to the present moment again and again because resilience is built here, not elsewhere. Distraction feels harmless, but it is costly. It steals depth. It weakens commitment. It trains the mind to seek constant stimulation instead of sustained effort. Over time, a distracted mind loses the ability to sit with difficulty. The moment discomfort appears, it escape. And without the ability to stay focused in discomfort, resilience collapses. A disciplined focus does not mean ignoring reality. It means choosing what deserves your attention and what does not. Not every thought is urgent. Not every opinion matters. Not every emotion requires immediate action. When the mind is disciplined, it learns to filter instead of absorb everything. This filtering protects emotional strength. Your focus determines your emotional state more than your circumstances do. Two people can face the same situation and experience it completely differently based on where their attention rests. One fixates on what could go wrong and feels overwhelmed. The other focuses on what can be done and feels steady. The situation is the same, but the focus creates a different inner reality. When pressure rises, the mind naturally wants to scatter. It jumps ahead, imagines outcomes, multiplies problems. A disciplined focus pulls the mind back to what is controllable. What can I do right now? What is required of me in this moment? This narrowing of attention is calming. It reduces anxiety not by eliminating the challenge, but by simplifying the response. Focus also protects you from emotional contagion. When your attention is uncontrolled, the moods, fears, and negativity of others easily enter your mind. You absorb their stress, their panic, their complaints. A disciplined mind chooses not to dwell there. It listens without drowning. It observes without absorbing. This boundary preserves resilience. What you repeatedly focus on eventually becomes your internal language. If your attention constantly feeds on discouragement, your inner voice becomes HARS. H. If it feeds on hope, your inner voice becomes steady. If it feeds on comparison, your inner voice becomes restless. Focus trains the mind on what to repeat internally, and that repetition shapes resilience. Control of focus is especially critical in moments of pain. Pain naturally demands attention. It wants to dominate your awareness. But when pain becomes your sole focus, it magnifies. A disciplined mind acknowledges pain without giving it full control. It allows pain to exist without letting it define the entire experience. This balance is not denial, it is strength. A focused mind is able to endure longer because it is not fighting on multiple fronts at once. Distraction creates unnecessary battles. Focus conserves energy. It directs effort where it matters most. That conservation is essential for resilience. You cannot endure if your energy is constantly leaking through scattered attention. Focus also deepens purpose. When your attention is clear, your actions align more easily with your values. You stop reacting impulsively and start acting intentionally. This alignment reduces inner conflict, and inner conflict is one of the greatest drains on resilience. A focused mind is a peaceful mind because it is not constantly torn between competing impulses. Many people believe focus is about intensity, but it is really about exclusion. It is about deciding what not to give attention to. You cannot be resilient if your mind is constantly entertained, provoked, and distracted. Strength grows in quiet, sustained attention. It grows when the mind learns to stay with one thing long enough to understand it, work through it, and grow from it. Discipline of focus is built gradually. It begins with small acts, finishing what you start, limiting unnecessary noise, choosing depth over constant input. These small choices train the mind to stay present. Over time, the mind becomes less reactive and more intentional. That intentionality becomes resilience. A focused mind does not chase every emotion. It notices them, learns from them, and then returns to what matters. This ability to return is crucial. Focus is not never being distracted. It is coming back again and again. Each return strengthens the mind's endurance. When life becomes overwhelming, focus becomes your anchor. It keeps you from drowning in possibilities and fears. It reminds you that you only need to handle this moment, not the entire future at once. This narrowing of attention restores calm and clarity under pressure. Ultimately, your life will move in the direction of your strongest focus. If your attention is undisciplined, your life will feel scattered and fragile. If your focus is trained, your life will feel grounded and resilient. Control your focus, and you control the direction of your strength. Guard your attention, and your mind will grow unbreakable. Pain is something every human being encounters, but not every human being uses. For many, pain becomes a stopping point, a reason to retreat, a memory that hardens into fear. But for those who learn to discipline their mind, pain becomes something entirely different. It becomes a teacher. It becomes a forge. It becomes power. The difference is not in the pain itself, but in how the mind interprets and responds to it. An undisciplined mind sees pain as proof that something has gone wrong. It asks, "Why is this happening to me?" and quickly follows with, "I can't handle this." Pain feels personal, unfair, and overwhelming. The instinct is to escape it as quickly as possible, even if that escape costs growth, integrity, or long-term strength. Relief becomes the priority, not resilience. A disciplined mind responds differently. It does not deny pain, but it refuses to be defined by it. It understands that pain is not always a signal to stop. Sometimes it is a signal to grow. It asks a different question: what is this pain trying to teach me? That shift in thinking transforms suffering into strength. Pain exposes weakness, but it also reveals capacity. You never know how strong your mind is until it is tested, and every test carries discomfort. Growth without pain is comfort disguised as progress. The disciplined mind understands this and no longer panics when pain arrives. It recognizes pain as part of the process, not the end of it. Many people allow pain to shrink their world. After being hurt, they play smaller. After failing, they avoid risk. After disappointment, they lower expectations. This is not wisdom, it is fear wearing the mask of caution. A disciplined mind does not harden or hide. It stays open while becoming stronger. It allows pain to refine rather than restrict. Pain also clarifies priorities. It strips away what is superficial and exposes what truly matters. When the mind is disciplined, it uses pain as a lens, not a prison. It sees more clearly what must change, what must be released, and what must be strengthened. Without discipline, pain only creates bitterness. With discipline, it creates wisdom. One of the most powerful shifts a disciplined mind makes is this: pain is temporary, but growth is permanent. An undisciplined mind reverses that belief. It treats pain as permanent and growth as optional. That belief keeps people stuck. Discipline restores perspective. It reminds the mind that this moment will pass, but who you become because of it will remain. Pain demands a response. If the mind is untrained, the response is emotional. Anger, self-pity, withdrawal, blame. These reactions may feel justified, but they weaken resilience. A disciplined mind pauses before responding. It allows emotion without surrendering control. This pause is where power lives. It creates space between stimulus and reaction, and in that space, strength is built. Pain also tests commitment. When things hurt, the mind wants to renegotiate values. It wants to compromise standards. It wants to quit what once felt important. A disciplined mind holds steady. It does not abandon purpose because the journey is uncomfortable. It understands that commitment proven only in comfort is not commitment at all. When the mind is disciplined, pain becomes feedback instead of failure. It provides information. It reveals limits that can be expanded. It highlights areas that need strengthening. Instead of asking, "How do I avoid this?" the disciplined mind asks, "How do I grow through this?" That question changes everything. Pain endured with discipline builds confidence. Not loud confidence, but deep, unshakable confidence. The kind that says, "I have been through hard things before, and I am still standing." This confidence does not come from ease, it comes from evidence. Evidence that you can endure. Evidence that pain did not destroy you. Evidence that you grew. Man, why people are afraid of pain because they believe it will break them. But what truly breaks people is unprocessed pain combined with undisciplined thinking. When pain is avoided, suppressed, or dramatized, it festers. When pain is faced with clarity and discipline, it heals and strengthens. A disciplined mind does not rush pain away. It allows it to do its work. This does not mean enjoying suffering, it means respecting its role. Just as muscles grow through resistance, the mind grows through challenge. Pain is resistance. Discipline is the form that turns resistance into strength. Pain also humbles. It reminds us that we are human, that we need growth, that we are not finished. A disciplined mind accepts this humility without shame. It does not confuse weakness with worthlessness. It sees vulnerability as an invitation to mature, not a verdict of failure. When pain is met with discipline, it sharpens character. It teaches patience. It deepens empathy. It strengthens resolve. People who have endured pain with a disciplined mind become steady under pressure. They are not easily shaken because they have already faced discomfort and survived it. Pain also teaches boundaries. It reveals what drains you, what distracts you, what harms you. A disciplined mind listens to these lessons. It adjusts habits, relationships, and priorities accordingly. Pain then becomes protective rather than destructive. Without discipline, pain leads to avoidance. With discipline, pain leads to mastery. One creates fragility, the other creates resilience. The difference is not toughness, it is training. Training the mind to stay present, honest, and steady in discomfort. Eventually, something shifts. Pain no longer feels like an enemy. It feels like a signal that growth is happening. Challenges no longer feel like threats. They feel like opportunities to apply what the mind has been trained to do. This is resilience in action. A disciplined mind does not seek pain, but it does not fear it. It understands that pain is not the opposite of progress. It is often the pathway to it. When pain is met with discipline, it loses its power to break you and gains the power to build you. Let pain shape you, not stop you. Resilience is not built in dramatic moments of victory. It is built quietly, daily, through the choices you make when no one is watching. The sixth truth about disciplining your mind is understanding that consistency, not intensity, is what hardens resilience over time. Most people wait for motivation, for energy, for the perfect mood. A disciplined mind does not wait. It shows up anyway. There will be days when you feel inspired, focused, unstoppable, but resilience is not formed on those days. It is formed on the days when you are tired, distracted, discouraged, and still choose to act. An undisciplined mind lives at the mercy of feelings. When the feeling fades, so does the effort. A disciplined mind understands that feelings are temporary, but habits shape destiny. Every small choice you repeat trains your mind. Waking up when it's uncomfortable, starting even when you don't feel ready, finishing what you said you would finish. These actions may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time they compound into mental toughness. Consistency teaches the mind that excuses are not commands, they are noise. Many people sabotage resilience by being extreme. They go all in for a few days, push too hard, burn out, then disappear. This cycle creates frustration and self-doubt. The disciplined mind chooses sustainability over drama. It knows that showing up at 70% every day is more powerful than showing up at 150% once a week. Consistency builds trust with yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your mind learns, I can rely on me. Trust becomes confidence, and confidence is a pillar of resilience. When life hits hard, a person who trusts themselves does not collapse. They adapt. A disciplined mind does not negotiate with comfort. Comfort will always argue for rest, delay, and avoidance. If comfort always wins, resilience never develops. Consistency is the quiet refusal to let comfort dictate your standards. It is choosing discipline even when no one applauds. Resilience also requires patience, and patience is a byproduct of consistency. When you commit to steady effort, you stop expecting instant results. You stop quitting because progress feels slow. You understand that growth is invisible before it becomes undeniable. This mindset protects you during long seasons of effort with little reward. The mind must be trained to respect the process. Results are outcomes, not commands. You cannot demand them on your timeline. What you can control is your daily input. A disciplined mind focuses on what it can do today, not what it hopes will happen tomorrow. That focus reduces anxiety and builds inner stability. Consistency also strengthens emotional regulation. When you practice discipline daily, your emotions stop running the show. You learn to act even when emotions fluctuate. This does not make you cold or robotic. It makes you grounded. You feel emotions without being controlled by them. Resilient people are not emotionless, they are emotionally trained. They do not panic when motivation dips. They do not quit when boredom appears. They understand that boredom is part of mastery. Repetition is not punishment, it is preparation. Another truth about consistency is that it simplifies life. When habits are non-negotiable, decisions become easier. You no longer debate whether to act, you just act. This reduces mental fatigue and builds momentum. Momentum makes discipline easier, and discipline strengthens resilience. The disciplined mind also understands that missing once is not failure, but quitting is. Consistency is not perfection, it is commitment over time. When you stumble, resilience is built by returning, not by self-judgment. The ability to reset quickly is itself a form of discipline. Consistency trains the mind to stay calm under pressure. When chaos arrives, routines provide stability. Habits become anchors. You do not waste energy figuring out what to do. You already know. This clarity under stress is a hallmark of resilience. Life will not always test you in obvious ways. Often, it tests you through monotony, repetition, and delayed gratification. The disciplined mind does not grow restless in these moments. It understands that greatness is built in repetition, long before it is revealed in results. Over time, consistency reshapes identity. You stop seeing discipline as something you force yourself to do and start seeing it as who you are. You become someone who follows through, someone who is steady, someone who does not collapse under pressure. Identity level change is the deepest form of resilience. When challenges come, and they will, you will not rise to the level of your hopes. You will fall to the level of your habits. Consistency ensures that level is strong. It ensures that when life shakes you, you do not shatter. Resilience is not found in grand speeches or sudden awakenings. It is built quietly through repeated disciplined action, day after day, choice after choice. No shortcuts, no excuses. Discipline your mind to be consistent, and resilience will become your nature.